Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Mullins Over Music podcast. I'm your host, Austin, and this week we have Mindy from the metalcore band Dying Oath on the podcast. We had a great conversation, get to see a cute dog, and I don't want to spoil anything. So go ahead, have a listen, and enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Mullins Over Music podcast. You know what we are, you know what we do, and you know we have a lot of fun here. At least until the robot overlords take us over.
No doubt.
And then they replace me with Austin 3.0. Hopefully he's as funny as I am. If not, sorry for the future. So, we have a special guest with us on the podcast from the band Dying Oath. I'll let her introduce herself to you and the little pupper that's right next to her.
Hi guys, I'm Mindy. I'm the vocalist for Dying Oath, like he said, and this is Evie, my little sidekick.
Belt. Animals are the sidekicks of the world.
She's spoiled. I don't know who did that. It wasn't me.
No, not at all. Now, we start off every podcast with two questions. We started off with our first one, the fun fact question. You went to elementary school, you went to middle school, you went to high school, whatever. They always asked you at the beginning of some of those classes, what is a fun fact about yourself? And so they've been preparing you all this time for my podcast. That's the truth. They just knew you'd be here to answer this question.
Let's see. I think the first thing that comes to mind is I am a Friday the 13th baby. I think that's probably what makes me so weird.
That is actually really cool.
Yeah, every 7 years I get to have a Friday the 13th themed birthday party, so that's my favorite part about all of it.
That's dope. Okay. Okay. That is a great fun fact. And of course, our next question, as always, is the funny question. Because what is anything without a good laugh?
True.
So, this question is, who in your life would make the best zombie?
The best zombie.
Yeah.
Hmm, that's a really good question. Um, I mean, probably myself, to be honest. Like, fun fact, so I used to work at a haunt,
Yeah.
and for many years my character was to be a zombie. So now it's something that I can just like do on cue. It's just something I do just to be weird sometimes to trip people out. But that's also where I get the white eye contacts. So when I'm on stage and I perform, I always wear the white eye contacts, and
Yeah.
people ask me why. And it's because you can pick me out of a crowd from anywhere, or if you're all the way in the back, the one thing that you can see is my eyes. So, but I started wearing those at the haunt when I was a zombie. So now I kind of do like the weird zombie makeup when I'm on stage.
That's cool. I dig that. I would just wear my regular contacts.
It's hard enough, man. It's hard enough just putting any type of contacts in. I think that takes more time than doing anything else to get ready because I hate putting things in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, man, why did I do this as like part of my stage attire? Because now I have to do this every show.
You
Did
could
it to myself.
you can put on sunglasses and they won't know.
That's true. Yeah, that might be something I do this year. That might be the new thing this year to change my attire.
Yeah, just throw on some sunglasses. People won't know that you're not wearing the contacts.
It's true, and it's so weird because sometimes we'll be at shows and people will walk right past me and not talk to me. And then I put the contacts in, and those same people will come back and be like, "Oh my gosh, when did you get here?" And I'm like, It's not like I've been here the entire time, but yeah, I just got here.
Yeah, just got in about,
Yeah,
an hour and a half ago. You walked
yeah.
by me, no big deal. Okay, I got one more funny question for you.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite conspiracy theory?
Oh, gosh. Okay, that's probably the hardest question. There's so many that I enjoy. I think aliens in the ocean.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's crazy to me because like we wouldn't know either way because nobody's been down far enough to see what's down there. And I mean, I'm I'm one of those people. I think that aliens probably do exist. We can't be like the only life form in all of these places that we've never been to, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah, I think that one, I would love for that to be true. I know that sounds crazy because nobody wants aliens, but do we though? I don't know. They might be pretty cool.
Hey, if they're chill, want to hang out, play
Yeah.
play some Smash Bros, whatever.
I mean, I feel like if they were gonna hurt us, they would have done it already. They probably have the technology and the know-how to do so, and they haven't taken us over yet, so they must be pretty chill.
This is true. This is true. Okay. Well, it's time to move on to the more musical questions because I know that's why people you know, watch my podcast.
Oh yeah, all that.
They come for the music. It don't always get very far, but they're here sometimes. Okay, let's start with the origin story of Dying Oath. And let's go back even further, as far as you can go to your first musical memory and how you really got into music. And then we'll do the band.
Okay. So the first thing I remember musically, I was in church, and my mom was a singer. She used to sing in church. And I think I was probably 4 years old. My mom was singing, and I'd always heard my mom singing around the house anyway, so I kind of already knew all the words to the songs that she sang. And she said that I just pulled a chair up to the podium while she was singing and started singing with her. And I was able to sing on key and stuff like that. So she thought, this might be something that she wants to do later on in life. So then when I was about 6 years old, she gave me a Pat Benatar CD. And I was like, wow, as a kid, I was like, this is amazing. I love this. And I learned all the songs in my tiny little baby voice. And I went to my mom and I sang for her, and she was just blown away. She was like, wow, I can't believe that you learned all of these songs. And then I'd say probably 2 years later, I saw Joan Jett on TV, and she was the badass that she is and had on this leather jacket. And I threw a fit, told my mom I had to have this leather jacket, that I wanted to be a singer. And of course, I was like 7 years old, so she didn't really put any stock into it. But I begged her until I was about 10 years old, and she got me voice lessons. So by the time I was like 13, 14 years old, I was doing like all state choir and things like that. And then when I was 15, I started doing opera. That's something I was very, very into. I started learning piano and doing opera. And when I was 14, I actually started my first band, but I wasn't a singer. I was a bass player. I was a bass player for about 9 years and did backup vocals because I was really shy. And then, let's see, I think I was 21 when I became a full-time vocalist for bands and started learning to scream and do things like that. And then in 2018, I joined Dying Oath. And they were already a band. They were a bunch of guys that were friends that kind of grew up around each other, knew each other. The guitar player Josh, I'd known since I was 14, and we'd already, hung out with each other and knew each other from parties and stuff like that. And he hit me up one day and was like, "Hey, you want to come try out for this band?" And I was really skeptical because, I was like, I don't know if I want to do bass, if I want to do vocals. I don't know what I want to do. But I showed up and I was absolutely in love with the music. And I told them that day, I was like, if I don't get this audition, I'm just gonna sleep on your porch until you give it to me. Like I want this. this is the band that I've always wanted. This is the sound that I really enjoy. And it was like 2000s metalcore. And, all the metal kids loved like Bullet for My Valentine and like stuff
Yep.
like that when back in the day. So I was like, yeah, this is what I've always wanted. And they ended up calling me back and I ended up getting the audition.
There you
So,
go. That's awesome. Now, I gotta ask two questions to follow up. Favorite Pat Benatar song and favorite opera?
oh, um, favorite opera, that's really hard. Um, oh, there's so much good opera out there. I really love like the old classical opera, like the old Italian classical opera. There's not one that is my favorite, but just that era is just so beautiful. And, the music is so full and their voices are so strong. And like today's opera is still really good, but it just doesn't give me the same feelings as like the old classical opera does?
Yeah, of course.
So I would say that entire era. And as far as Pat Benatar, probably We Belong. That's a song that me and my mom used to sing in the car together all the time. So it kind of has like a special place in my heart.
Yeah,
But I don't think there's anything that she ever did. I own every vinyl that she's ever done. And I don't think there was a bad song on any of it. She's just mind-blowingly original and amazing. And I think she is one of the people, along with like Joan Jett, Stevie Nicks, that hold the sound for the 80s for me. That's what I
yeah,
think of when I think of 80s music.
for sure. Now, little anecdote. My favorite opera is Rusalka.
Oh, okay. So you actually know your opera.
Yeah, I do.
That's that's amazing. I
I rem
love that for
I
sure.
remember going to see it in so we saw it at a movie theater. I went and saw it with I guess my eighth grade band teacher. And it was
That's
like
awesome.
we all went to go see it and I was like, this is good. And it was the Metropolitan Opera who do it, so
Yeah. Oh, I bet that was so beautiful.
it was so well done and the subtitles were there so I could understand what was going on.
Oh, that's amazing.
I
That's
love
a
it a
really
lot
cool
more.
memory to have as a kid.
Oh yeah, I love it a lot more than I like La Boheme.
Same. That's one of those things where like I mean, it's still great. You can't really find opera that's not amazing, especially
Yeah,
for what they do and how they do it. But I would definitely have to agree with that. I think that La Boheme is probably more mainstream and a lot more people know of it because they've seen it places,
yeah.
but I would have to agree with you for sure.
To be fair, the first time I saw it was at my community college
Yeah.
and it was all right, but it wasn't like I
It
was
wasn't mind-blowing.
yeah, I was glad to have gone, but I was like, yeah, it could be better.
I feel that.
But I don't know if it's just the plot of La Boheme that I just don't care for, or if it was just the way it was done.
Yeah, it's like you said. I mean, it's great, but it's not the most mind-blowing thing I've ever seen. And there are some out there that I still want to see.
But yeah,
You can't ever see enough opera.
no, of course not. Well, let's move on to our next question. And this is always fun. Do you do any instruments besides the bass guitar? And of course, your instrument of your voice box.
So I do play guitar, I play bass, I play piano. When I was in high school, I played clarinet. I haven't done that in a really long time, but it's kind of like riding a bike. I think I could probably still do it. Um, I mess around on the drums a little bit. Like I can keep time and everything, but I can't do anything crazy. I'm one of those people I can't, my hands and my feet can't do different stuff with it. I think you have a certain mind for that. But yeah, I think piano is probably my favorite. That's something I would like to pursue further at some point, but I just haven't had the time. But I play a lot of guitar these days. I like to do like acoustic stuff
Yeah, of
and sing and play guitar when I'm alone.
course, of course.
but I'll always be a bass player at heart. Any bass player will tell you, like, no matter what instruments you go to, you're always a bass player.
That's yeah, that's true, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Be my shaking my table. Better stop with that. It's gonna make me nauseous seeing myself go, okay. Well, our next question is what other interests outside of music we do you have? Because everybody likes to know from their favorite musicians, from their favorite artists, you know, what do you like to do just besides music? Because let's be honest, while everything does revolve around music for musicians, we all have
Yeah.
our I was gonna say vices, which I guess so too. But
Yeah.
we all have our own little hobbies, you know. So what give me some of your hobbies, some of your other things you enjoy doing outside of music.
I love to paint. I like to draw and paint a whole lot and do arts and crafts. I love doing anything crafty, building things. I used to do a lot of modeling. I don't do that as much as I used to. It's something that I still enjoy doing. Um, I like burlesque.
Oh,
Um, Definitely love the burlesque community. Um, I like to work at haunts. Like I said before, that's something I really love to do is haunt acting. That's something that really fuels me. Poetry, of course, which I think that kind of goes hand in hand with music, but I love to just write poetry. Um, And I love being outside. I absolutely love hiking and finding new places in the world that you can't see unless you walk 10 miles,
yeah,
like going to the Devil's Bathtub and things like that, natural springs, stuff like that. I love nature, probably more than anything else.
nice. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like just going down a path several miles to find something that rarely anybody ever sees. It's always
Yeah,
so beautiful, and nature is always beautiful.
I find that it's really grounding, just to be out in nature by yourself and all the sounds and the smells and the wind and I don't know, it's just something so beautiful about being one with nature by
It,
yourself.
it's relaxing too.
Very much so. That's my favorite way to relax. Of course, you gotta do a lot of walking to get to the relaxing part, but that's kind of like your reward at the end of it.
Walking can be relaxing
It can be, yeah. Yeah,
until you hit about
sometimes.
mile 12.
Yeah, especially if it's uphill.
Oh yeah. Uphill both ways, as the old people used to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that.
It certainly seems that way, especially when you're hiking.
Yeah, for sure. Just when you think you've gotten there, there's like 3 more miles.
Yep. You're like, oh, this is so beautiful. Am I there? Nope, not even close.
No. And then you collapse on the ground for 20 minutes once you make it.
Yep. And then you have the whole trek back.
Yeah, that's always the terrible part for me is like I love getting there. And then you realize the 12 miles that you just walked, you have to do it again.
Yep. It's not so much as a 12-mile walk as the 24 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, by the end of it, you're like, I need to call somebody to drive me. My legs won't work.
Yeah. Well, on to our next question. And this is really about and go into as much detail as you feel you want to or not. What is the thought process and the writing process to writing a dying oath song?
So I usually write real stories about myself. I kind of put my heart on the line when it comes to that. It's a very vulnerable thing, but I feel like that's what people connect to the most. So I write real stories either about my life or things that I've seen in other people's lives, and a lot of things that people usually don't talk about or sweep under the rug. And so a lot of it's kind of risque, and I'm always nervous about it. But um, I write different ways. Like with one of our songs, it was a dream that I had, and I woke up and jotted it down, and it ended up being a song. And some of it was just stuff that was painful for me that I needed a healthy outlet for. So I would sit down and just kind of brainstorm some things. And a lot of times, like Josh will usually come up with some riffs, and sometimes I just write about how it makes me feel as kind of like a translation. Like I hear the song and I think, maybe what he might have been feeling when he wrote it, or how it makes me feel and what it captures inside of me, so to speak. And so a lot of times it's just me trying to be a translator and how I think that people might feel when they hear it, and just put that to something that means something to me.
Cool. So what's the recording process like? You guys go into a studio or do you guys record yourselves?
So we've done both. A lot of times we like to record ourselves because a lot of times it'll evolve.
Yeah.
So instead of paying somebody to work hours and then be like, you know what, I didn't really like that, want to go back and do it. Recording ourselves, we can do it over the period of weeks or while touring or working or doing whatever we're doing. So, we'll come up with something that we think is great, and then we'll record it. We'll listen to it a million times. And sometimes, like with the last song that I did actually in the studio, we changed it completely because while I was recording, I felt and heard something different in my head, and we changed it and it ended up being so much better. So we like to kind of record ourselves, unless it's one of the songs that we've had for years that we've been sitting on that we finally finished that we know is great, and then we can go and record it at a studio. But a lot of times we kind of write on the fly, so we'll record ourselves, and once we've listened to it a half a dozen times, we'll send it off to a producer and let them mix and master it.
Nice. Short, sweet, and to the point. I like it.
Absolutely.
For some songs, you can work on them for weeks and months at a time and just not be fully happy with it. And then one day it'll
Yeah.
click. So,
Well,
totally.
it's funny because we're getting ready to release an EP, and these songs are songs that we had since the beginning of the band, but they've evolved so much that we never put them out with member changes and, just changes in our lives. So this EP, the title of it means coming home, like coming back to your roots. And that's kind of what we've done because we've moved in a different direction. But with these songs, we took songs that we already had the first year and kind of put the sauce that is Dying Oath right now and put a modern twist on it. And this is kind of like the evolution of those songs. So it's weird how that happens, but these are old, new songs that we're releasing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that was gonna be my next question. Are you guys gonna have any new music? I guess that answers the question.
Yeah, so we are going to release three new songs that are old to us but new to everybody else.
Yeah.
And then we're following that up with a song that we just wrote.
Oh,
So it's going to be like us going back to our roots, showing you where we started before we released music, and then putting out a song that is the direction that we're going to be headed for the foreseeable future.
I like it. Well, you know me, I'm always about new music. So whenever anybody's
Absolutely.
like, I got new music, I'm like, you do now.
Yeah, we'll be releasing that very soon, actually. We don't have a set date because, you got to get it into Spotify and all those things and make sure all the dates coincide. But I can tell you it is going to be epically soon that we're going to be dropping all kinds of new material.
Well, you guys heard it here first or second or third. You heard it
Heard it
at,
here first.
oh, you
Heard it
heard
here
it
first.
first. So be on the lookout for that, which is always cool. I love new music. Now, I have to ask, what's your favorite song that you guys have done and your least favorite song? Because, it may not be one you hate, may not be one you dislike, but, there is a top and there's got to be a bottom somewhere.
Absolutely. Um, is this all of our songs or just the songs that we've released so far?
Um, Depends on how you want to do it. I'll
Okay.
leave that up to your interpretation.
All right. So my least favorite, I'll start with that, is probably Insomniac for a lot of reasons. First reason is because it was the first thing that we released. So that's
That
a song that we still have to play because it's people's favorites and they ask for it, even if it's not in the set. And we've played it a million times. We've played that more than any other song, so I'm tired of it. Um,
fair.
yeah. And it was the first video that we did. And if you know anything about doing a video, you have to perform that song like 100 times to get it right for the different angles and all that. So I was already tired of it, and then we had to play it to promote it. So yeah, I still love the song. It's one of my babies. All of my songs are, but I'm very tired of that song. I would be happy if we didn't play it ever again.
That's fair. You know,
And
it's always great to hear that because I'm like, there's gotta be one song that you're just like, man, I'm tired of it. And artists are like, no, and then they're like, well, actually, I'm like,
yeah, if
why?
anybody says that, they're probably just being nice because we all have a song that we don't want to play anymore. I'm sure of that. Um, But as far as like my favorite song, I would say probably the song we just released, Odyssey. That one's just so much fun, and I wrote that song specifically as a thank you to our fans, so it holds a deeper meaning for me. But it also kind of signifies the beginning of a new chapter for us. That's kind of the direction that we've started moving in, and it's more modern. And it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing it live. I really enjoyed writing it and recording it. So I think overall that's my favorite. But I think that once we release this next single, that one's going to be my favorite because it's so heavy and it's so meaningful and it just I don't know. It's you guys tell me when it comes out if you like it. I think everybody will enjoy it probably more than anything that we've done because we've gotten more experience now and we've gotten more used to each other and the band and the direction and we know who we are as a band now and I think it just shows how far along we've come, the progress.
Okay, I like it. Now I will say Odyssey is my current favorite as well.
I'm glad you like it.
I was like, this sounds like, well, like you said, old school metalcore, Bullet for My Valentine. I even felt like there was a little bit of Demon Hunter type sounding vibes to it,
Absolutely.
which
Absolutely. I agree.
are my favorite bands. They're definitely
I love that band.
uh,
I absolutely love that band. I would have to agree with you.
seeing them live is something else too.
Oh,
Even
I haven't
light
seen
it
them
up
live.
session.
Lucky. That's what I haven't seen. I've seen thousands of bands, but I haven't seen them yet. That's gonna have to go on my bucket list.
They don't tour very often, so
I noticed that.
I had to catch them at Furnace Fest in 2022
I
too.
wanted to go to that literally just for that reason, and I didn't get to go, and it made me really sad.
I just managed to end up with free tickets to that, and so we went on the second and third days. We missed Norma Jean, which sucked, but I get
I'm
to,
gonna pass my dog off real quick.
yeah, go for
Here,
it.
take her.
Ask the dog.
Oh,
Well, now we
okay,
get to ask.
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Sometimes you gotta pass the animal off to regroup.
She was getting very restless and biting me.
Sounds like a pet.
Yeah. Yeah, she was she when she gets
Hello. Oh, there you are.
I'm
Okay.
back.
Welcome back. I was like, oh, okay. Well, you ready to
I
move
think it was
on to
the
my
signal.
next question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I have to let me trying to pick a number. Give me your top four vocalists.
My top four vocalists.
Yeah.
Pat Benatar for sure.
Yes.
Um, Chester Bennington,
Great choice.
absolutely amazing. Uh, Morgan Lander from Kitty,
That's a good choice too.
and probably Pink. I think she's just a phenomenal vocalist, and seeing her live really changed my life because seeing somebody live that is so much better live than they are on your recording is absolutely insane to me. Somebody that can not only nail their vocals live, but surpass anything that they've done. It definitely won me over for sure.
I feel like bands and artists who are able to do that automatically get like bumped up in my own personal ratings. I'm like, this band is good. I enjoy their music, but their live show just blows me away. When the live show and their stage presence and everything really hits you with the music, it's like it transcends, the typical musical boundaries.
I definitely agree, and I have to give mention to Amy Lee and Lizzie Hale because they're more of those artists that I've seen both of them live probably 15, 20 times and would still pay $100 a ticket. Like they're just so mesmerizing.
Well, I
I
think
hope
I have to
I
see.
hope to be that good one day.
Well, I will get to see Evanescence at Louder Than Life, so I will definitely make a point to go over there.
I was sad because I was hoping we actually ended up winning a competition to play Louder Than Life last year.
Yeah,
And I was really, really hoping that Evanescence was going to be there so that we could play with them because we played with them at Blue Ridge one year. We also
yeah.
played with Hailstorm, and both were just phenomenal. So I was hoping they were going to be there last year, but we didn't get them. We did get Disturbed though, so that was cool.
Did you go to Blue Ridge in 2023?
I did. So we played 2021 and 2022, and then I ended up getting free tickets to go to 2023. So I ended up going to that, and that was
Good job. I did too.
it was interesting.
That was one of the worst festivals I've been to.
Yeah, and it's sad to me because a lot of people that was the only one that they got to go to, and going to 21 and 22 was like two of the best festivals I'd ever been to.
Yeah.
And then 2023 happened and it was a disaster and it made me really sad because it was so well done the 2 years before that, and the only thing that most people that were there got to experience was that one.
Yeah.
And so it made me sad for them because like a lot of people are like, well, now I hate Blue Ridge because, they did this, this, and this, but they didn't get to see how well everything was done and how well people were treated the 2 years prior. So I understand people's frustrations. I absolutely do. I was there. I experienced it as well. But for me, it was kind of like home because that was the first festival that ever gave us an opportunity to play, or any smaller bands like us the opportunity to play. So I can't really say anything bad about it either way. I see both sides of it for sure.
That's fair. That's fair. And of course, there are other festivals that have come and gone that, like Blue
Yeah.
Ridge, were good and then had some issues toward the end. I mean,
Well, I think the thing of it is a lot of people as these festivals get bigger and they get larger and they get bigger acts and stuff like that. Sometimes I feel like they just bite off more that they can chew, and then they don't have enough crew and they don't have enough money, and there's so many different things that are involved with making these things a success. And I think as they get bigger, some people don't have the capacity to be able to do it the way it needs to be done, in all fairness. So I think it just gets harder to keep it successful.
oh yeah. And let's be fair, it's not cheap to run a festival.
No, it isn't. And a lot of times I know that with Blue Ridge and things like that, people are like, they're making so much money off of us. And it's like, no, most of the time they're breaking even or making just enough money to keep it going to the next year, because some of these acts want $50,000 for an hour,
I
you
mean,
know?
hey, you know what? If they could get it, I don't see why they shouldn't ask for it.
For sure. I agree.
It's just a shame I didn't get to see Coheed and Cambria. I got to see 40 seconds of it before it stormed.
Same here. I was very sad about that. That was kind of my redo because I saw Coheed and Cambria um one of the year, I can't remember which year of Warp Tour, and I got my nose almost broken,
Oh,
and they pulled me out, and I didn't get to finish watching it because I was bleeding everywhere because I was a teenage girl in a pit with huge guys, and I got creamed. And all I remember is some huge guy that looked like the singer from Judas Priest, like picking me up and pulling me out. And then they took me to the tent to get taken care of, and I missed the rest of the set. I didn't even care about my nose. I was upset I didn't get to finish watching them. So this was going to be my redo, and like you, I saw several seconds of it, and that was it. So I still have to do a redo.
are you gonna try to see them on the tour with Mastodon and Periphery?
Yes, that is the hope.
Okay.
That is the hope.
Uh, I'm I'm trying to see if I can convince my wife to go.
You guys should definitely go and see that. Maybe we'll end up at the same one.
Oh
Who
yeah.
knows?
She loves Coheed. She's she likes Periphery's music, but she doesn't like the vocals, funny enough. And then
It's an acquired taste.
yeah, Spencer is he is an acquired taste for sure.
Yeah,
Then
I
she's
get
like,
that.
I could go either. She's like, I don't really care for Mastodon, but she's like, I don't hate him.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Like it's one of those bands that are, you have to like them to some extent because they're so talented at what they do and they're some of the best at what they do. But it's not like my favorite band or a band that I listen to in the car every day?
Yeah, of course. But it's almost just worth it just for Coheed.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I would go simply just for that.
I feel like we need like a another headlining tour with Coheed, and then I don't know who we'd put with them, but it that
Mm.
got to be a band that would go with them really well. I mean, Mastodon's pretty decent to go with them, but I feel like
Yeah,
they are a lit just a tad bit too different.
I agree. I mean, it's similar, but it's like apples and oranges for sure.
Okay. Well, you ready to move on to our next fun section? This is always my
Sure.
favorite section or second favorite section. It alternates between second and first. So
Okay. Okay.
call it gear talk, great talk. And I know since you've played bass, I know
Mm-hmm.
you've got a bass. I know you've got some bass gear,
I
and
do.
I'm sure you've got some mics and some other gear like that. So
I
give me
do.
as much or as little as you want of the details about your gear.
Well, this is gonna sound crazy, but I like different brands for everything. So like for my guitars, I have a ton of Ibanez guitars.
Oops, the signal has dropped.
They sound the best, I think.
Yeah.
Um, for my bass, I have a custom Fender blues bass. That's my favorite one. I have several of them, but that one's probably my favorite. And then when it comes to my vocals, I always use Shure. I think that Behringer and Sennheiser are close seconds, depending on what you're doing or if you're recording or whatever. But my Shure is definitely my absolute favorite.
Of course. I mean, Shure is just a reliable brand. They with Sennheiser and with Behringer, you know, they have really high points and really low points between their
Yeah,
product, which can be either so much better than Shure or so much worse than Shure. Shure has always been that good, solid middle ground.
I agree. And it's like top-notch quality, but it's not the most expensive thing ever. So people even, starting out, they've got different levels. So you can get like $100 mic just starting out, or you can go pay $1,000 for a mic and what you want. what you're looking for. And I think that's my favorite thing about it is that's what I started out with, and that's now what I've graduated to. It's just I've kind of moved up in levels.
Yeah, I mean, they have the best products for, I was gonna say all ages, for all experiences.
Yeah, well, same thing, I guess, and to some extent.
Yeah, all ages of experience. There you go.
That's perfect.
So we're getting toward the end here, but I've got a couple more questions. These are always some fun ones. Now, a lot of people don't like when I use the term guilty pleasure for music, but don't
I
think of
love
it
that
as
term, actually.
don't think of it as like, something you're ashamed to listen to, because people are always like, I'm not ashamed of anything I listen to. Well, the guilty pleasure would be more of something people don't expect you to listen to.
Yeah,
But
that's why I kind of like that term. I use that a lot when I'm listening to stuff in the car because people think, you're on the way to a show. So they obviously think that I'm listening to like Lorna Shore or, something like that, but that's not at all the case at all. So, yeah, multi pleasures are things like Kelly Clarkson. I absolutely love listening to Kelly Clarkson because she just has this crazy range and she covers like every genre and absolutely knocks it out of the park. So I really love that. I listen to a lot of Sleep Token. The vocals are just phenomenal. Um, Oddly enough, since I was a kid, I've always been a Spice Girls fan. That's just something I listen to because it makes me feel good and it kind of like takes me back to my childhood. Um, I listen to a lot of boy bands, believe it or not. I was a fan of the boy bands back in my teenage years. Um, I listen to some country. Dolly Parton is probably one of my guilty pleasures,
of course,
for sure.
she knows how to sing and play music, that's for sure.
She does, and I grew up on a farm, so Johnny Cash and Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline, stuff like that. That's what our parents listened to, so it's what I grew up absolutely loving.
Of course. Well, then we have to move on to the next question. This is the most important question.
Okay.
Playing any shows that you can share with people?
Yeah, so we have a ton of shows coming up, a few festivals that we're doing. So at the end of the month, we're going to be playing at Ground Zero in South Carolina. In August, we're actually playing at Michigan Metal Fest. That's the one that I'm most excited about because when we toured, Michigan was like the central hub for metal and where people seem to receive it the most in the Midwest. So those are the two that I'm pretty excited about. We've got a couple of home shows. Um, I can't remember all the dates because we have so many coming up, but if you go to dyingoathband.com, we have an entire list of shows and you can get tickets to most of those as well.
There you go. Well, that's easy enough. Most people they like got to go through Eventbrite or something. I'm like, nah, Eventbrite's too much. I'm glad you have it all in a central location. To Not a lot of people have that, which is not even the huge bands. Some of them don't even have it. And I'm like,
I think that's one of the reasons why we try and do that because it is so hard, like we're a fan of other bands and that's why we do this is we like to go to concerts and stuff like that and not only do they overcharge, but they make it really hard to find events and stuff like that. So we have a link tree and it's linktree/dying oath. If you go to that, it literally has everything. You can find our website, all of our socials, our YouTube channel, everything that you could possibly find is on our link tree.
yeah.
One central hub.
And I'm assuming that's on the Instagram as well, the link tree.
Absolutely, yeah. It
Well,
is.
go people, go to that link tree. You gotta find. It'll be right there for you on their Instagram. Well, now it's on to what is considered to be my favorite part. I never call it second favorite. So I guess it is my favorite part, and that's the Dream Festival.
Oh, well, my dream festival was to play at Louder Than Life because that was my favorite festival that I'd ever been to. And we ended up making that dream come true last year and winning a contest and being able to play on a Saturday, which was crazy. So I guess next would probably be Bakken
That would be cool.
in Germany. Like that's something that we actually were playing in a battle of bands to go and play that, and we ended up winning the battle of the bands. But then they told us that our passports had to be at least 6 months old, and they weren't. So we ended up having to forfeit and couldn't go on to the next level. But if you ended up winning, you can never ever um do the competition again. So it was kind of good that we forfeit so that we can try again next year because we only won on the first level,
Yeah.
other than going all the way to the end, winning, not being able to go, and not being able to compete again. So we decided it would be best, even though we won the competition, to forfeit because we had no idea until after we won that that was going to be the case. So unfortunately, this won't be our year, but hopefully next year will be.
I think maybe they should have put that in somewhere obvious, but not everybody thinks that far down through. So I'm glad they told
Yeah,
you at some point.
yeah. Well, they didn't tell us. We ended up going through all of it and trying to figure out what we needed to be able to go, and then found out the hard way, and we're just crushed because we had just won the competition.
Yeah,
And so then we had to make that phone call and be like, we're sorry, we didn't know, but we had never had a reason to get a passport as a band before
yeah.
until this. And then we ended up getting our passports, and then it didn't matter anyway. But now we have passports, so we can keep them updated for things like this for the future. So hopefully Germany's on the bucket list for next year.
Hey, I definitely hope so. Now, what kind of bands would you give me some bands that you would love to play with on a festival?
Well, as you can see, Kitty is my favorite band. We played with them Blue Ridge 2022, and that was amazing. So I got to give a shout out to Kitty. I love those girls. They're phenomenal people. Definitely would love to play with them again. Um, In Flames, Trivium, I think we would fit really well with. Bullet for My Valentine would be cool.
Yep.
Um, I know that we don't really play the same type of music, but I'm such a Corn kid. I would love to play with Corn. We've already gotten to play with Slipknot, but I would not pass up a reason to play with them again.
Of course.
So I would say probably all those bands. That would be like my dream fest.
I like it. Those are great bands. And let's be honest, any chance to play with Slipknot is a good chance to play with Slipknot. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
even if their masks aren't nearly as cool as they have been in the past currently.
You know, I know. I'm not going to say anything bad about Slipknot. I love them, one of my favorite bands. But with Evolution, I feel like you're supposed to get better. And I feel like they just got tired of doing it. Now they're just like settling at this point. They're like, oh, this kind of looks like something I might wear. It's fine.
Yeah, they've always had some questionable masks over the years, like Corey Taylor's mask during "We Are Not Your Kind," which was that like plastic thing that looked really
Yeah.
good in the music video. Did not look so great when he was sweating his balls off at every show.
Yeah. Which they did say, like, the masks that they had in the beginning, like, were supposed to be like their forever masks. And then they started to smell and be
Decay.
disgusting and whatever. So they took the opportunity to, like, revamp them, so to speak, I guess, which I don't blame them because I don't think I could wear a mask on stage for more than 2 minutes. So props to them for wearing any masks at all
Plus,
or makeup for that
oh
reason.
yeah. They used to vomit in those, so I don't know about you, but I don't think
Mm.
I'd wear them after Uh, the probably the first time vomiting in it, I'd probably stop wearing it. But kept
Yeah.
wearing it for a while, so there was a lot of vomit in there. So it had to start
Sweat.
smelling. Oh yeah, sweat, blood. They
Yeah.
were lighting themselves on fire or lighting each other on fire. So it
Yeah.
had to be a little bit sweaty.
It had to be something for sure.
And
Couldn't do it.
you know, I will say my favorite mask is the gray chapter masks for Corey. I just like that
Yeah,
he was
me
able
too.
to take off the top part and have another
Yeah.
part underneath. I was like, that's the one. And then
Yeah, that was
it
pretty
kept
dope.
going backwards.
Yeah, I agree. Up until that point was good.
And then I
But,
hate to say it. Yeah. I hate to say it. Eloy's is the worst.
yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but I 1000% agree.
Great
Could have
drummer,
done better.
poorly done.
Probably one of the best.
Yeah, he is a absolutely killer dude. Um,
Yeah.
I bet Jay doesn't mind not having to wear a mask anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no joke.
Of course, then again, he's got his long hair, so that might be just as suffocating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. Like I was saying before, I couldn't do like I already have long hair, so and I'm like up on the stage under those lights just dying. So I don't know how somebody would put on like full jumpsuits with masks on top of it and not have a heat stroke.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Your guess is as good as mine. That's all I can say.
Especially for how many years have they been a band? 25, 30? I don't know. A
Some
lot.
a, a good bit of time that's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, not too much,
Yeah.
but it's a long time.
Too much to be doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most bands usually give up the whole mask stick after a while, but not them.
Yeah. You would think. Or makeup. Like,
Yeah.
mm, couldn't do
Uh,
it.
I don't know if you've heard, but Kiss is doing they're doing another show now after retiring, and they're not wearing
Oh,
makeup this
for the
time.
50th time? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, okay.
I think they
I,
need to wear their makeup. They're scary
well,
without it.
you said it. I was thinking it, but you said it. I was just thinking in my head, are they trying to like scare people off or draw people back in? Like,
It,
I
it,
don't know. I saw them 2 years ago, I think it was at Louder Than Life, and they were actually phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie. They were amazing live. They old.
oh, they really old, and it looks
Well,
like they're
props to
wearing.
them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, we are now at the end of the podcast episode. So now it's time for the fun part. Plugs. You got to plug yourself, plug the band, plug all that stuff, and shout out who you want to shout out. And then, yeah, well, then I got one more question after that.
Cool. Okay, well, obviously, shout out to my band because if it wasn't for my band, I wouldn't be doing all of this. Great bunch of guys. Couldn't be more proud. So shout out to my boys for sure. Shout out to all the media outlets like you that are helping us get our name out there and, letting us have a voice outside of the stage so that people can actually get to know us. I think that you guys are just as important as we are. You help us more than you know. Shout out to all of our fans for sticking with us for the last 7 years, through the lineup changes and the life changes and, all the things that come with being in a band. Thank you for still showing up for us at shows and listening to our music. And as always, like I said before, we have dyingoathband.com. We have a link tree where you can find all of our socials. We are literally on every social you can think of, including TikTok. Um,
That's what's
yeah,
up.
just thank you guys for everything, and thank you to whoever watches this.
Go to TikTok. Go find it on
Yeah,
TikTok.
that's where the fun stuff is.
Yeah, where all the behind the scenes action and
Yeah, all
again.
the comedy.
Yeah, exactly. because you didn't know this, but Dying Oath is a comedy show as well. They do their
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And any band who is on TikTok has a lot of funny stuff, not gonna lie.
I mean, you kind of have to. Like, people are like, well, you have to do all these socials to keep up. Okay, we're gonna do it, but I don't know if you're gonna like it because it's all the stuff that we can't put on our professional page. So good luck.
Yeah. It's fun though. It's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now our last question is, what song do you want to be the outro song from your discography? What song is going to be the outro song for the podcast episode?
I would say simply because you and I both agree that it's our favorite, I would say Odyssey for sure.
Hey, Odyssey will be the outro song. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was actually a lot of fun, Austin. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, of course.
This has been the Mullins Over Music Podcast, episode 24. With your host, producer, editor, me, Austin Mullins. Special thanks to guest Mindy Jackson-King from Dying Oath. The song title is Odyssey by Dying Oath. Check out Dying Oath on social media and all music platforms. Their new single, Burn, is out now on the streaming platforms. Check it out. Special thanks to viewers like you. Thank you. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.